I just wanted to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We know that, right now it's an unusual time for educators. It has been for quite some time. So just for you to take an hour out of your time and spend it with us, we really, really appreciate it. We're really, really happy as well to be joining up with WeVideo once more to kind of create this webinar and get those ideas flowing. Really good friends with WeVideo, an amazing platform. If those of you who are joining us who don't know about WeVideo, check them out. And those of you who are joining us who don't know about Wakelet, check them out. This is a real nice collision of communities here. So today what we've got is a really special webinar, actually. It's not so much a community webinar and a showcase webinar. It's almost like entirely by itself. So you're going to learn plenty. We've got the incredible Kristina. We've got the amazing Sarah joining us, both Wakelet and WeVideo ambassadors. And we're going to be talking about some incredible learning tips and techniques all around history. And you know what, I'm gonna let you guys talk about it. But first, I just wanted to introduce Jeremy as well from WeVideo. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, hey. So I will just be, in the chat, hanging out with all of you today. I run and help manage our WeVideo creator community, which is a great space for educators. And like we mentioned, there's a lot of overlap with the Wakelet community. So a lot of great inspiration, resource sharing, training, rewards. And I'll be here to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremy. So I'm going to introduce the two of our superstar guests here right now as well. So those of you who are part of the Wakelet community and part of the WeVideo community will know our guests very, very well. But Kristina, do you want to tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself?
I'm Kristina Holzweiss. I'm an ed tech librarian on Long Island, New York, certified English teacher, certified librarian, maker, creator, collaborator, and lifelong learner.
And superstar. You have to add that bit at the end as well.
And lifelong learner. We're all superstars. We're all superstars. What we're doing right now to help our students get through this time and to rise above it and to empower their voices, we're all superstars, and so are our students.
Beautifully said, Kristina. Thank you. And next up, we've got Sarah Kiefer. Hey, welcome, Sarah.
Hello. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to join Kristina. I mean, talk about superstars. Yep, joining up with the best, rubbing elbows. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm also a teacher, classically trained in the classroom, but now I do ed tech support for our elementary, so pre-K to 4. And actually, Kristina and I share a little bit of a common history. I worked in a library from the time that I was 16 till I graduated college, and love the library. I always thought of it as it could be my second career. I love all things Wakelet, WeVideo. When you talk about two tools that have been such a joy to bring into a classroom and show teachers and then students, they speak for themselves. So I'm excited to be here, bring them both together and work with Kristina to share our creative voices in history. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate it. And of course, everybody in the chat, you know how these webinars are. If you have any ideas, if you have a moment of inspiration whilst watching this presentation, please share it in the chat, share those ideas, and also ask some questions as well. If we have any time at the end and you have any questions, just address them to Kristina or Sarah, and we'll be able to hopefully get some questions answered. But without further ado, I'll pass on to you guys, and it's your show now.
Okay, well, I will grab our collection and make sure I do share computer sound because I usually forget to do that. And can you see my screen now?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes, awesome. So what I'll do is I'll take our collection. I'm going to copy it. If you haven't used Wakelet, this is how you copy. It's not the link at the top. It is this arrow and copy. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that into the chat. I'm trying to find the chat on here. I'm in Q&A. Oh, more. Let's see, chat, and I will put it in the chat right here for our collection. So you can have these resources to use later on. All right, so when Sarah and I first got together, we started thinking, well, how do we use Wakelet and WeVideo, and how can you use it? And I use it a lot for curating resources and I use it for, just put this up here. So that's my contact information, that's my website, and that is Sarah's contact information and hers. So you can visit us later on. So we started thinking about like how we curate resources, how we share out resources, those kinds of things. And I think Wakelet is a really great way to organize your research, organize, plan, get things together. In fact, we used Wakelet for our Egg Camp Cardigan Camp in February. We had 64 different sessions. And usually during an egg camp, you have a crowdsourced document. And usually people use Google Docs or Google Slides. But my requirement was that everyone used Wakelet, because I knew it had a really great graphical view. And I wanted people to try something new if they've never used it before. And so we used that. Everyone curated their resources through Wakelet. And then I put it on my website, and it just wasn't working. All the links that people weren't able to view them through my Google site, and just wasn't working. So I said, you know what? So what am I doing? I'll just create a Wakelet of Wakelets. So I created a big Wakelet, and I put all the Wakelets in there. And I love the fact that I can annotate them. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but you can annotate your links. And I just want to show you that before we begin. When you go into edit, you can actually go into, I'm just going to scroll up here. You can go in and you can actually edit the website name. You can edit your information here, and you could also put in a new image. So I think that's really great when kids are researching, because this is going to be a little bit about creative voices in history, but you can use it for different topics such as science or English or math, whatever. But I like using Wakelet for annotated bibliographies, because we grab, there's a difference between resource hoarders, we just grab whatever we can, and run out the door. And, it's like, it's like supermarket sweep. We just grab whatever's in the cart, and then we don't organize it. We come home and we have to organize the shelves. And I think that's what we can do when we annotate our Wakelet collections, by doing this and showing students how they can organize their work and then annotate it. Sarah, what do you think about it? Have you used that annotation feature with your students? I love it.
I absolutely adore it, because sometimes, especially if you're talking like a Google file and you add that to your collection, it doesn't always bring over like what you want it to bring over. It might just bring over like login with Google or something like that. So being able to help students and then teachers or whomever you're sharing the collection with, giving them that real visual ease, like being able to see, a picture that's on your website, something that they can associate, like that whole visual aspect is such a powerful, and some people might even overlook that, but it's such a powerful piece to any story, is how do you associate with, the whatever you're working with, a document, a website. So being able to do that. And Kristina, I don't know if you could go back to the one that you were annotating on the image and show them that it will also sometimes automatically grab, like that said 1 of 6. So it'll sometimes pre-populate suggested pieces of imagery, I guess, that you could also use, again, to help your students understand that it doesn't have to just be whatever the link itself brings over, that you can go through and, like you said, customize it and really let the students, or again, teachers or yourself, when you're creating these, really let your voice come through in this kind of a way. Yeah, I absolutely adore the annotation feature.
And I think that's really important as you're using WeVideo or any other creation tool. It's the foundation, right? It's the gathering your resources, getting ready. And when you start sharing your story, figuring out what your story is and organizing your story. So I like using Wakelet almost like that storyboard and planning things out. And again, I get to visually, it's not like a bunch of links on a Google Doc. I can visually see where everything is going. And if I want to create another collection that's related, I can do that as well.
And I love your comment about Wakelets inside of Wakelets. That is probably one of my secret, Like, I adore that. So you have, like you said, you don't want to just throw everything together in one. Number one, that becomes very overwhelming. But if you can then chunk it out into, and then you can have like your big umbrella Wakelet, and then you have your smaller bite-sized pieces of whatever your topic breaks down into. It's a wonderful way of using Wakelet in itself. So that's an excellent idea to do too.
So this is that example from our Ed Camp. This is the Wakelet of Wakelets. So it's a Wakelet that has 89 different items in it. And what I did was I put the session time, and then when I put the Wakelet in there, I made sure that the room number was there, the facilitator, and the topic was there as well. And it saved me room, instead of having to put another text, to put it right in the annotation. And then again, just load more. This is what you're talking about, the Google Drive. You could just change it right here, what the annotation is going to be. So I really like that fact that, again, as a librarian, we really focus more on process than product. And a lot of teachers either don't have the time to look at process or don't have the skills to assess process. And I think that Wakelet is used, I like using it for process. You know, what is the thought behind it? So I'll go back to this one. And so why are we talking about creative voices in history? So when you see here, you'll see Rudine Sims Bishop. She wrote about mirrors, windows, and sliding doors. I don't know if you've seen this before, but windows, mirrors, and sliding doors. And we're talking about books. And I would say any media. It says books are sometimes windows offering views of worlds that may be real or imagined, familiar or strange. These windows are also sliding glass doors, and readers have only to walk through in imagination to become part of whatever world that has been created. But they can also be mirrors where we can mirror our own experience. And I think that's really important for our students to see themselves in the world, to see others in the world, and to step in the world and become part of the world. And that's why I think it's really important that we talk about this in history. And again, as an English teacher, librarian, I really think we have to be more thoughtful about these things. And so this is a wonderful, wonderful infographic. This is diversity in children's books from 2015. And you can see that 73.3% were about white characters. And that's 2015 in children's book literature. And then in 2018, 50% white. Okay, but where did it go from? The animals and trucks went from 12.5% to 27%. Still higher than African-American representation, Asian Pacific Islander, Asian, Latino, American Indian. Still more, we have white, and then we have animals over the voices of our world. Our history is so full of multicultural, rich stories, and we're just scratching the surface of it. Sarah, have you noticed this with your students as well, with books that they're reading?
I do see this. I will be honest, again, until you put it out there like this infographic does, I don't think that it necessarily registers. So, you know, as an educator, being aware of it is the first step. And then it's now, what do we do with it? Okay, so we have this great information, and I love the 2-year comparison, even though like they're 3 years apart, but it's 2 different years of comparison. And it's like, okay, and talking with our students about, you know, in a way, like what's wrong with this picture and what do we do about it? What can they do about it? Which always, you know, it's wrapping back into empowering their voice because they are our future.
Right. And why are we wrapping stories about acceptance and tolerance and fitting in and diversity in books with animals when we can use the real historical context and we could use real real people and real characters. And sometimes their gender and their religion and their culture makes a difference to the story because it moves part of the plot. And sometimes it doesn't. It just happens to be that the character is female, or it happens to be the character is a Native American. And sometimes it just doesn't do anything with the plot. But just having those characters in there, you know, naturally as being part of a story than stories about animals and trucks.
And it's also good to point out too that those might be what's being written out there, but we as teachers, we're the ones, librarians, we're the ones putting books into our kids' hands. So we need to take a look at what do our collections look like? What are the options that we're offering to our students? And it's not that you have to drill home to not read certain books, but it's let's make sure we're offering that variety. Let's make sure that we're giving them these as options, because that's really where we can see some growth is allowing the students to choose, because they don't know to choose if they don't have that as a choice.
Right. If we're not putting it on our shelves in our school library and public library and classroom libraries, then we're not offering students opportunity. And it is kind of like a censorship when you're not putting those books on the shelves. Kids don't know to go looking on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whatever. They don't know, let me look for, diverse books about students like me. They don't know that. They know what we give them. They trust us, right? They trust us. So I think that's really important, why we need to talk about not just empowering, talk about creative voices in history, but empowering our students to tell their own stories. And so this historical example that is in this Wakelet is basically centering on the Holocaust, because I work with a great set of librarians, Lynn Ortlieb and Sarah Wasser at our Library Learning Commons. And they have done this project for years using WeVideo, creating videos of Holocaust survivors. So I really thought it was interesting to take it from this perspective, but it could be with any subject area. It could be with any historical context. It could be anywhere in the world. I just happen to have this example because this is what they've been working on for years. So who remembers reading Diary of Anne Frank in school, right? Most of us have read this book or have heard about it in some way, shape, or form. And it's just text. It's a book and it has text. And what you learn about it is what your teacher has taught you or what you bring to the book when you read it. And then you have the original. And then you have the original diary, which is so rich to look at with the handwriting and how she saves every little spot that she could write in and put her thoughts. And it's such an intimate look about her voice. And then you have the play, right? We read, when I taught English, we didn't read the book. We read the play. We actually acted out the play. And then you have it come to film. And then you have it come to stage. So you have a real story, a person's intimate life published, and then on the screen and on stage. I think that's just so powerful, the way of stories. And now you can actually go to tour the Anne Frank house through YouTube, which is amazing. Actually, I'm going to log out of this one, right? I'm just going to get out of this right now. And I'm going to press new share because I would like you to see these videos. And I'm going to put in that link. And hopefully I logged out so then you could see the actual YouTube. It did not log out, but that's okay. I will log out right now. And I would like to show you from your point of view what it would look like.
And Kristina, while you're doing that, specifically stating logging out, like this is great. I work with the elementary crowd. Your students don't have to have Wakelet accounts in order to access a Wakelet as like what you're showing here. And that's a really awesome thing to know, that as a teacher, you can be respectful of their privacy and any of the rules in your district. If you want to create these collections, again, for your students to be able to access and read some of these different voices in history, or a science topic of lab experiments, or whatever you're talking about, but you can share with your students without them having to have the links or the login, the account. So that's a really important piece to being able to use Wakelet too, especially, you know, again, like I said, with the younger crowd.
And you see how visual it is. It would take you more time to use another tool to have this wonderful look. Again, if you put it in Google Doc, it's just going to have those links. This, I feel, is a lot more engaging, right? So in this video, again, you can go to the
Anne Frank House is located in Amsterdam.
I'll just lower this. And it will bring you to the Anne Frank House, and it is a video of a person who actually has been there. So again, from text to video to stage to life, right? This is someone actually walking in the Anne Frank House. And I remember the first time I had seen something like this years ago when I first started teaching, I thought it was amazing, because how many of us have the opportunity to go there when we can experience it now?
And how wonderful is that, Kristina, for my students who in Cincinnati, Ohio, the chances of them being able to go over there, I mean, at this point right now, like, are nothing. But to be able to bring that still to them can really, wow, you know, like that's, like you said, the visual aspect of it, but really bringing that to life in a way that even her diary wouldn't be able to do.
I remember when I was reading the play, and there was a scene where, you know, where they were being discovered. I turned out all the lights, right? And I made it very dark in our room, and I wanted them to have that feeling, what it was, and I'm getting chills now to talk about it, what that felt like to be in that moment of Anne Frank, and just to be, and like, we, thank God we have never experienced anything like that personally, but to be in that situation and then to overcome it through your words and your story, I just think that's amazing. Here is another video of the Anne Frank House, but this one has her own voice.
At the top of the stairs
not her
is a
own voice, someone reading it for her. I apologize for that.
landing with doors on either side. The door on
Now,
the
can you hear that? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Great.
left takes you up to the spice storage area, attic and loft in the front part of the house. A typically Dutch, very steep, ankle-twisting flight of stairs also runs from the front part of the house down to another door opening onto the street. The door to the right of the landing leads to the secret annex at the back of the house.
The ingenious movable bookcase which covers the door to the hiding place does not feature in Anne's description, written on July the 9th, 1942. The bookcase has yet to be built. For now, it's still just the grey door. No one, according to Anne, would ever suspect that there could be so many other doors behind this one. Anne enters the secret annex.
Straight ahead of you is a steep flight.
So, I mean, I'm getting chills looking at that, and it's animated. Again, we're meeting students at different levels. We're trying to immerse them in the story. We're going from text to video to sound. And I think that's why I love the idea from Wakelet to WeVideo, that journey, that transition. And so we have the secret annex website you can go to. And then you have the Anne Frank House virtual reality. So now it's another dimension that you can bring it to. It's these things that kids can experience. And I want to show you, I don't know if you've ever seen this. Have you ever seen this interactive hologram? It is amazing. I need to show you this interactive hologram. And I'm just gonna.
Trains take us places. Sometimes places we don't want to go, but need to go.
Howdy!
Max Glauben laughs at just how odd this is.
It feels strange to a point.
It's like he's looking into a mirror that talks back.
Do the best you can with what you got. Listen to the train whistle.
Last year, Max spent more than 40 hours telling stories in a 360-degree studio with special cameras on him. They'll turn him into an interactive hologram.
Unheim, unertatten, war kein Mame gesäugen.
This is Max's first look at a simplified version of that hologram. It not only talks back, but sings back.
By no mother.
To help us all look back.
This is my greatest reward in my lifetime, is to give people or tell people about what has happened so they could respect the rights of other people and don't allow another Holocaust to happen.
Max survived the Holocaust.
That is one of the most important points I'd like to make. Tomorrow begins Holocaust Remembrance Month. And I think that is such a power to bring that person alive through a hologram and to capture his story so it will not be forgotten. And that's why I believe that we do it. Sarah, any thoughts?
Chills. You can't parallel that experience, you know, and very quickly, because of how far out we are from the Holocaust, we're going to be losing these gems. And to be able to capture that, I mean, think about the power that we have with what they're doing, capturing him in a hologram and being able to watch that for years to come. And because that's the voice, right? You know, we're connecting, like you said, on so many different levels with text and video, but that's connecting like with a person, like that's real. And no, you can't touch, but that is as real as it's going to get for many of us. So it's just humbling to sit there and listen to him.
When I first discovered that, I just said that this is just amazing. And I remember it reminds me of my grandfather when my sister was into film, and my sister interviewed my grandfather about his life. And they sat in actually this dining room where I'm sitting right now, and she took a camera and she just recorded him. This was before the time of cell phones where I could just grab it. And everyone today, grab your cell phone and record anyone. Just record someone in your life, because you don't know when that will be the last recording that you have. And people who say to me, you know, I'm not going to spend money on a wedding video, I always say, yes, spend the money on that wedding video. Because when how often do I watch my wedding video? Okay. But I heard voices of people that I have not heard in years. There's something about that. And Sarah, you were saying that we're losing our survivors. And so I want to say that the last known surviving American veteran of World War I passed away in 2011. That was 10 years ago. He was 110. 110. And this infographic will show us when the US will lose its last World War II veterans. There will be a time. And this is very important to me because, again, my friends Lynn and Sarah have Holocaust Remembrance Day. And Irving Roth, if you've never heard him speak, please look him up on YouTube. We have a Holocaust Remembrance Center here in Nassau County on Long Island. And these 3 Holocaust survivors passed away in the last 2 months. Please remember their names, because we have a student, Lacey Janice, who started the Witness Project in our school, Syosset. And for a number of weeks, they would meet with these survivors and they would listen to their stories. Usually they have a large assembly, but we can't do that this year. So they had these sessions. Irving Roth was supposed to speak at our Holocaust Remembrance Day, and he's not going to. Kathy Grease will not be able to. Yakov Handeli will not be able to. That's why I think it's so important. Here is a student example using WeVideo, just a small part of it, and it's about Irving Roth. And what they do is they research the survivor and they find images and they find information and video, and they take stock footage and they put it together. So I'm going to show you this short clip from our one of our students.
By the time Irving was 9 years old, the Nazi powers began to invade. Ross states, "Through my town, under my very window marched thousands upon thousands of German soldiers, and tanks, and motorcycles, and bicycles, and horse-drawn artilleries." The process was not one that happened overnight. It started during an annual party. This is where the Nazis established new laws which denied Jews access to public places. Jews, along with everyone else in Germany, were required to carry identification cards. But more laws were added for just the Jewish people. The yellow star was added to all of their documents, which allowed for Jews to be easily identified.
So it's just a short clip, but this is the project they do every year in 10th grade. I think it's really powerful. I think it's a really important project. And again, we don't have Irving Roth anymore. We have many videos of him. Again, please search him online. He's a wonderful speaker. But this is a wonderful tribute that's students. And students, when they create something with WeVideo and they research and they collect the information from Wakelet, they're not just learning from a book. They are taking someone's story and they are sharing it again for them. I think that's really powerful. And what we're doing is our news production show. We have our morning announcements. And so if I go here, I will find the part where we're talking about, you can meet Lacey. I'm just going to go over a little bit. You can meet Lacey. I'm going to move over. Where is she? This is Lacey, and she is she's a student responsible with this year's experiences.
And for a special message, here's Lacey Janice.
Since January, our high school has collaborated with the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County. The center offered a unique opportunity for our students to meet with Holocaust survivors for 5 sessions. During the first 3 meetings, students heard survivor testimonies, and during the second 2 meetings were able to get to know the survivors more and ask them any questions. This opportunity was extremely unique and special. Learning more about the Holocaust survivors and the testimonies allowed us to become witnesses so that the Holocaust is never forgotten when first-hand testimonies can no longer be told. Although this program has ended, sophomores will still have the opportunity to hear from Holocaust survivor Werner Reich on April 7th. I am confident that my peers who participated in this program will agree when I say that hearing survivor stories enriched our lives by instilling important values such as strength and resilience.
Also, let us take a moment to reflect on the recent passings of Holocaust survivors Irving Roth, Cassie Dries, and Yakov Hendeli. There's nothing more important.
Lacey had actually recorded a moment of silence for Irving and Kathy, but a day before editing, Yakov had passed away. And so Daniel, our host, stepped in and he did that small tribute to all 3 of them, so Yakov would not be forgotten. That's what happens when you work with a population that is aging and is an important group of people to listen to. And so I just added some resources here. StoryCorps, which you can capture stories of your families. My Hero Award, Heroes Around the World, Humane Education Lesson Plans. And for diversity, we are Kit Lit Collective, Learning for Justice, Project Lit Community, and Lee and Low Blog, and we need diverse books. Sarah, do you have anything to add?
I just want to say how impressive your students were, Kristina. I mean, seeing high schoolers take WeVideo, and like you said, they brought in some stock imagery. They did their research. I mean, what great skills for these kids to have now, thinking about if they're able to master that now. You said they were like 10th, 11th, 12th graders. Think about what they're going to be able to do when they go out, you know, quote unquote, into the real world, when they bring all of these skills with them. And that's really the joy of being an educator, right? Is that we are empowering our students to find the things that interest them or that we've assigned to them, and they have to take it, because there's things in my job that I don't necessarily particularly love, but knowing how to tackle that, knowing what to do with it, and then coming back with that beautiful WeVideo. And that's one of the strengths that I saw with WeVideo with my teachers last spring, is with so much available and being able to pull it all together. And sure, you could spend tons and tons of time, but you could also very quickly and simply put together your voice with some images, maybe some music. It doesn't have to be this crazy, big, huge, in-depth thing, but it could be. And that's where you have that whole scalability for your students, that variety for your students. And WeVideo, Wakelet to capture all the research, and then jumping over to WeVideo and putting those tools in our students' hands. I remember one of our second grade teachers said, wow, I know why video editors make the money that they do. He was like, there's just so much there. You could really go down a rabbit hole. And to show that to kids today, I showed it to a couple fourth graders about a month ago, and these girls just were like, oh, I can do this. And I was like, yeah. And then I stepped back and they jumped in and they're like, ooh, can I do this? Can I do that? And try it out, guys. Like, let's see what you can do. And I mean, they were just so excited, and to see that enthusiasm, that's where you get me. And that's where you go like, wow. And then they turn that around and they share it. And then you're just like, yeah, that's why I teach. It's because of this right here. Right. Like, and I'm not even going to tell you that their video was this amazing. It was their first go at it, and they loved it. They loved it. And it was good. They did a great job.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was absolutely incredible, Kristina. I think that as a lesson plan and as a activity for students to do, the ability nowadays, I think, to pull in so many different types of media that you know, I think when all of us were at school, we didn't have access to this kind of thing. And I think that, you know, when I come from a mixed heritage background myself, and so when I was a student at school, I didn't see much representation in terms of the books that we read and the types of media that we were subjected to. Whereas, you know, if I was being taught in a class nowadays, there'd really be kind of no excuse for, you know, for an educator to kind of not make me feel like I'm included, not make me feel like I'm part of the conversation, and make me feel like my story is, my voice is heard. So I think one of the most incredible things out of all of that you showed was the ability to just pull in media that demonstrates that allows students to be able to see those voices and see those different perspectives. I think it's all about the culturally responsible teaching, which is demonstrated perfectly in that. Thank you, honestly, thank you so much for sharing that and sharing that collection. I think it will inspire lots of people to kind of create lessons and create collections like that themselves. I just had a quick question as well. So history in general is a subject which I think is ripe for students and anybody really to discover, you know, different cultures and different stories and different backgrounds, and to see, you know, how different people have struggled, how different people may have been oppressed, how you know, how different countries and different areas of the world have dealt with conflicts and that kind of thing. How about teachers who aren't necessarily involved in a subject like that, like a maths teacher or a science teacher or something like that? You know, what kind of things do you think that they'd be able to do to help their students feel a bit more included?
I have the perfect example. I work with a chemistry teacher, and because of Holocaust Remembrance Month, he's actually, and it's not just Holocaust survivors, but it's all refugees. And his project for his students is for the students to explore. And now he had to discover appropriate scientists and people that you could find information from, which is not always easy. But they had to research a scientist who was a refugee, the historical context, and the person or organization who rescued him or her. So most of them were Holocaust refugees, but there were other scientists of other cultures. So yes, as long as you have people, you can have a project, because it could be in history, it could be scientists, it could be mathematicians, it could be artists, it could be athletes, it could be writers, it could be, I don't even know where to stop. It could be anyone.
Yeah, so I think the point is that, as you know, we're all humans at the end of the day, and regardless of what subject you're teaching, you can always take that extra step to make your students feel included and to make them feel like their voices are heard. What about you, Sarah? Any tips on that as well? Like just general activities that may help enhance that may help enhance students feeling included in lessons and feeling like they're a part of the class, if that makes sense?
I really like the idea of if you're able to, and I know not everyone is able to, and Kristina said it great. She said you could just these days pick up a phone and record. It doesn't have to have this, crazy special equipment. You don't have to have these high-end cameras or anything. We saw some students at home take pictures. Their parents would take pictures of them last spring during the closure and send them over, recording themselves, honestly doing their work to give that voice, that practice. It could be big projects like what Kristina was demonstrating. Those are wonderful, but sometimes it's great to show kids how they can take their own personal interest, their own personal love. It could be a way for them to share with their classmates, get to know their classmates a little better. Maybe I'm a great pianist and I love playing the piano and I want to share that with my classmates. It could be something along those lines. I do believe there are several gym teachers out there that I know during the closure, they would make videos of themselves doing physical activity with items around the house and then pulling those together in a Wakelet and sharing that with their students. I mean, how cool is that? That we're living in a time where you just have to have your phone, the internet connection, and boom, there you go. It could honestly be anything. I think we're only ever limited with the caps that we put on our own brains. And kids are the perfect opportunity to blow that off. Like, what would you want to do? Ask them that question and really give them the support, because sometimes teachers will ask that and they'll be like, okay, well, but how about you do it my way? But it's, what do you want to share? What can you do? And let them show you what they're capable of.
Sarah, I think that the technology has finally caught up to our dreams. But I mean, I remember as a young kid, one of my gifts was a tape recorder. I loved it. You press the record button and then you can get your songs off the radio.
Oh yeah.
Or I can make my own I would make radio shows with my friend. We would do the little tap, 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 tap. So it sounds like, someone's at the typewriter. And we would make audio shows with the tape recorder. And that's the same thing, right? Kids always want to play radio or play TV or, play these careers,
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Kristina, sorry.
Oh, no, I just, it just gets me really excited that now we can use these things. And Sarah, I hope you don't mind, but you're talking about kids sharing their voices and equity. And I have to show immersive reader in Wakelet. Yeah. I have to do that.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm going to give the example right here. And you see that little magic button, right? That is the gold. It should be a gold button, right? That is the golden Willy Wonka golden ticket right there. Because when you press that, that's when you have it, the Wakelet comes alive and can read to you.
Books are sometimes windows, offering views of worlds that may be real or imagined, familiar or strange.
And I think this is, what you were talking about, Misbah, about, being welcoming places for our students. And if kids need it to be in another font, or if they need the increased spacing or not, or even if we were talking about the grammar and the syllables. But my favorite part is the dictionary, because we have a very high Asian population in our school. And so when we translate this in Chinese, I heard it's not perfect, but it is good enough, because no translation is good as a person, but that they can get the idea.
书籍有时是窗户，提供可能真实或想象、熟悉或陌生的世界的视图。这些窗
That I think is amazing. That's something that I've never seen that when I was a kid. That excites me.
And Kristina, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you would be looking at this as if you are a student. This is not because you're logged in. This is each student can truly if they're shown, if they're taught how to do this, because the technology is there, the student can go in, the families can go in, sharing out a Wakelet collection of anything like this with a family, being able to show them how they can make it accessible. And this isn't you controlling this. This is, I'm looking at this as a student. I am able to make this work for me, and giving them that is just like you said, mind blowing. That should be like a shining, vibrating star or something to really show that off.
Right. It's empowering. It's equitable. You don't need permission. You don't have to call attention to yourself about what you need. You're in charge. I love that idea, Sarah.
And I think that we talk so much, I think, about technology and how it can help in the classroom, but one of the things that I really, really love about it is nowadays there's this incredible ability to connect with people from all over the world, and it's not so much in like a Facebook type way like it was when I was growing up. It's like it's face to face, like virtual field trips. I don't know if many of you use Reddit or go on Reddit. When it's coffee break, I like to browse it. I'm subscribed to a few subreddits, but they have this live feature where just anybody in the world can pick up the camera and start live streaming something. So you'll have some people playing the guitar, you'll have some people doing some skills or cooking or whatever, and then people upvote it, and before you know it, somebody's gone from having 5 people around the world watching them to having 50,000 at once. And funnily enough, the ones which seem to be really, really successful are literally just people from all over the world doing mundane things, but in their own setting, right? So somebody in Africa, for example, who's, having a barbecue, or somebody who's in Iceland just walking their dog. It's this idea of being able to see inside somebody else's perspective and somebody else's life. I think that at the end of the day, I believe that as default, all human beings love the fact that the world is so diverse, and that there are so many different cultures that you can experience and enjoy. And I think that especially with kids as well, like kids, there's racism and intolerance. That's learned behavior. So at the point where you're teaching students, I think one of the most impressive things that I've seen our community do in particular is, because our community is so international. You can see on this webinar, for example, there'll be at least 3 dozen different countries represented here, if not more, is being able to connect with teachers around the world. And all it takes is just to send a Twitter DM, and before you know it, you can have a video call with your students and their students. And something simple as, I want my class to come up with 10 questions to ask your class, and I want your class to come up with 10 questions to ask mine. And just doing things like that, it really opens so many different doors for us to see the world and hear different voices. And it's not just using technology for technology's sake, it's actually having a powerful, profound impact on the students' development and their understanding about different cultures, and also helping people feel inclusive in this world. Honestly, thank you so much, Kristina and Sarah. Like, that was an unbelievable session there, extremely eye-opening, and I'm sure that everybody in the chat really, really appreciates it. And yeah, just I think just in general, outside of the awesome kind of tech pedagogical side that you've shown there, I think just helping teachers understand to be a little bit more mindful, I suppose, on you may have students in your class who are from minorities, and it's important to make them feel included, and the content that you share with them should reflect that. You know what I mean? Yeah, thank you so much. Kristina, Sarah, do you have any kind of last words to say to our amazing community before we jump into a little bit of promo stuff from myself and Jeremy?
I am more excited about education now than I have ever been in my life. And I've been teaching for a long time. And again, technology has finally caught up to my dreams. It's finally caught, well, except for one. I've always wanted to download my brain. I've wanted to do that. I've always wanted to hook it up to a computer and download it. Even when I was 7 years old, I'm like, I guess I invented the thumb drive in my head. But I think that's what it is. It's finally that, it's out there. Just do it.
And I would just like to add, Ms. Ba, you said something that I continually come back to. It's not about the technology. It's there, like Kristina said, it's finally caught up. Like we can put this in our own hands, in our hands of our kids, but it's never about the tool. Like for us, for me, it's not about Wakelet. It's not about WeVideo, but it's that learning piece. It's the goal of what are we doing? We're trying to share voices. We're trying to capture things that we know we're going to lose. We're trying to prolong and teach and expand our students' worlds. And we can do that thanks to the technology that we have. And that is just like, that's my dream, is that we finally, you know, I don't have to just live within the confines of where I can drive my car. It's, you know, there's airplanes, there's trains, and there's the internet. I mean, Kristina, your examples are like spot on. I'll probably never make it across the ocean, you know, like, let's be real, but I can go there thanks to the technology. So it's always about that learning and what are we teaching our kids? And as educators, that's our little bubble. Like, that's our privilege. That's what we get to work on. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's amazing. Just with the last 5 minutes that we've got, I once again want to thank Sarah and Kristina for joining us today for this really moving, incredible webinar. At this point as well, I think when we're talking about the whole community, I'd be amiss to not mention the Wakelet Community Impact Award. Those of you who know about it and who haven't applied for it yet, please do. The Community Impact Award, I'm just going to share my screen actually, just so that I can grab where we are. Hold on a second. Hope you can all see this profile here. Hopefully you should be able to see it. Get a nod of head maybe, because I can't see.
No, it's black. It says Wakelet has started screen sharing, but I don't see.
Yeah, okay, there's something strange happening here actually. Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll just share the link in the chat. That's gonna be much easier for everybody. Okay, so the Community Impact Award, essentially we understood at Wakelet that, you know, the last year has been particularly difficult for educators, and we've seen in our community and beyond our community, educators do incredible things for their own schools, for their neighborhoods, for their students. And some of these things are not necessarily things which you as an educator would think make you a superhero or that are anything of note. Some of these things just come naturally to you because you're amazing. But to the outside world, these things are heroic. You know, we've had teachers who have, you know, visited their students who are at home and delivered packages of work to them, who've delivered food to them, for example, students who can't get online. We've had, you know, teachers deliver like 4G receivers so that they can actually get online and have their classes. And what we wanted to do was celebrate that, right? Celebrate the impact that you're having in your communities. Thank you so much for sharing this on the screen, Kristina. So the Impact Awards, it's all about celebrating the work that you do within your community. So we've got an incredible judging panel, which we're really, really proud of. And essentially, if you just head to the link which I've shared, please apply and just let us know some of the amazing things that you've done this year to positively impact your community. Now, we're going to be launching this, well, it's already launched, and it's around just a week or so away from the deadline. And the winner of the award will get $10,000, and we have two follow-up prizes for $2,500 too. So without taking up too much time, because I'm going to pass over to Jeremy, head over to that link and please just tell us your story, share it in a Wakelet collection. Let us know the amazing things that you've been doing, and you'll be in with a chance to win that and get that amazing recognition. I'll pass over to Jeremy now. Thank you so much.
No, this is such an inspiring initiative, and I know that our Chief Education Officer on the WeVideo side, Dr. Nathan Langrad, will be a judging panel member. So I love all these connections. I think I'm leaving this webinar with a better sense of how to center students and focus on student engagement, which is something that we're all about at WeVideo, and also the important role that educators play in teaching history and highlighting creative voices. So we also have a gathering, a professional development summit happening this summer, led by and for our community. And we're actually gathering proposals and sessions to present. Great platform. We had over 3,500 attendees last year, and folks from all backgrounds, subject areas, grade levels, tools, and all ideas are welcome. So I'll be sharing that link in the chat too, and I'm super excited to see all of you. We have so much to celebrate as a community in education. I mean, like you said, Misbah, it's been quite the ride this past year, but I'm so inspired by everyone.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Yeah, the WeVideo Summit is definitely one not to miss. check it out for sure. Also at Wakelet, we've got some incredible new updates coming very, very soon, so stay tuned. And a few really important announcements as well. But I can see Jeremy shared all the information that you need to join the WeVideo creator community, and then also for the community summit as well. So thank you all so much. Once again, a huge thanks to Sarah and Kristina for joining us and sharing that incredible, passionate presentation. You are such an inspiration, and I know that everybody in the chat will walk away from this webinar feeling much more inspired and much more mindful, I think, about that inclusivity element in their classrooms. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. We'll leave the chat open for just a few moments so that anybody can scroll back up and catch any links that they may have missed, and then we'll give it a few more minutes, I'd say, and then we'll close it off. But for the time being, our speakers and Jeremy, we can just mute our mics and our video, and we can either stick around until it closes, or you can just leave. It's completely up to you. But thank you all so much for joining. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.